all here, so I think we're ready to get started. Can you hear me, JP? Thumbs up.
Yes, I can.
Great, thank you. Okay, hi everyone. My name is Alex or Alexandria. I'm looking forward to working with all of you. There we go, thank you, perfect. I'm here through Dane County's Technical Assistance Program, assisting municipalities as they respond to the regional housing crisis locally. I've been working closely with Aaron to lay the groundwork for this process. I'd also like to introduce my colleague Olivia Perry, Senior Planner. She'll be helping to facilitate our discussions later today. I'd also like to take a moment to go around the room so we can each introduce ourselves and get a little bit acquainted. Say your name, please, and then your role in the village and anything else you'd like to share. Should we go this way? Lorraine, would you like to start? Thank you.
Lorraine Gage, community member and a resident of Cottage Grove, Village of Cottage Grove.
I'm Katie Burns-Kaiser. I'm the Director of Communications and Community Engagement for the Monona Grove School District.
Lisa Collada, I'm the village clerk.
Aaron Ruth, the village planning director.
Chris Stilla, I am a village trustee.
And Paula Severson, village trustee.
Great, thank you so much. Oh yes, JP, can you please introduce yourself as well?
Of course. JP Villavicencio, I am the Plan Commission representative on this committee.
Thank you. Great. Would you like to introduce yourself as well?
Oh, I just think it's an audience number. These are on. I'm Cindy Calvin-Nelson, village president.
Hi, Cindy. Thanks for being here. So why are we here today? Cottage Grove last updated its comprehensive plan in 2020, and since then the village conducted a 2023 housing study that resulted in updated housing goals and priorities. This is an opportunity to build upon this previous work and identify any additional opportunities to incorporate. We can also account for what has already been accomplished. It also provides the opportunity to further refine any of the existing housing priorities and create a solid implementation plan moving forward. The planning horizon that we are planning for is the next 10 years, and the implementation plan will cover the next 5 years. In addition, updating the housing chapter will make Cottage Grove eligible for funding they wouldn't have otherwise qualified for. WIDA administers 3 low-interest loan programs for the workforce and affordable housing. To access these financing resources, WIDA requires that you have updated the housing chapter of your comp plan within the past 5 years. These include infrastructure access, restore Main Street, and vacancy to vitality. So this is the general cadence of our meetings with about a 2-month interval in between each. We'll aim for completion sometime this fall. After we complete this series of meetings with you all and you all approve the drafted housing chapter, I will present it to the village board. All right, so today we will review the work and accomplishments that the village has already completed. Cottage Grove has already done a significant amount of work to begin to address local housing issues in the 2020 comp plan as well as the 2023 housing study. Were any of you involved in those projects at all, or? No? Okay, great. Then we'll review current data and housing trends for the region and the village. You don't have to remember all of the data, as this is just to provide you with an overview to help inform our discussions. Today, we will begin to discuss and identify top housing priorities and strategies for Cottage Grove. Then we will review and hear any feedback on the draft public participation plan, which is a requirement for comp planning. You all got a copy of that, and they're also in your binder as well. Same for the community housing survey and the survey outreach plan. The committee will vote on approval for each. For our second meeting, we'll start by providing a review of what we accomplished during tonight's meeting. This is an opportunity for you to reflect and provide any feedback you might have. Next, we'll give an overview of housing best practices and the WIDA loan programs for workforce and affordable housing. We'll also give you some information on existing programs and resources available to the community. We'll also present the results from the community housing survey and provide a summary of what was discussed today. Those both can help to inform the discussions that we will then have about action items. At our final meeting, based on everything we accomplish, I'll draft the housing chapter and present it to you. The chapter will cover a background, introduction, the identified priorities, strategies, and action items, and an implementation plan with a timeline, as I mentioned. We will collect feedback and then finalize the chapter and arrange to present it to the village board for approval. All right, we're ready to jump into our agenda for today. I'm going to start by briefly reviewing the previous work done in Cottage Grove, including recommendations from the 2020 housing chapter and the 2023 housing study. For a comprehensive list of these recommendations, please refer to the fact sheet that's in your binder. You'll also receive that in an email as well. I don't necessarily want to take the time to read through all of these right now, but it's important to be familiar with them because this is the work that we'll be building upon. However, I think it is worth reading at least the goals and objectives from the housing chapter, so I'll start with the goals. Number 1, provide housing in neighborhoods that foster the physical, mental, and social well-being of residents. 2, encourage design of neighborhoods that will maintain value over time to provide the tax base to maintain public infrastructure. 3, diversify the village's housing stock in terms of size, type, and value to accommodate a broad range of demographics. Would anyone like to volunteer to read the objectives? Thank you. Great.
Objective number 1, use the future land use plan to specify locations to diversify housing types and add density in ways that are compatible with single-family development. 2, design neighborhoods that provide a range of housing types, densities, and costs. 3, create attractive and safe neighborhoods that are well served by essential municipal services and facilities.
Thank you. Here are the first half of the policies being recommended to meet the stated goals and objectives. These include, for example, new zoning districts that would allow for more affordable housing types to be developed, such as single family on smaller lots or multifamily. They also recommend that housing be located in neighborhoods with access to community amenities and be served by sidewalks and bike routes. The rest of the policies include items aimed at increasing supply of in-demand unit types in the village, such as 0 to 2 bedroom rental units, as well as smaller units in general. It also calls for more owner-occupied housing at lower and higher price points. Okay, now moving on to the housing study. The housing study separated their findings into recommendations for the comp plan, the subdivision ordinance, and the zoning ordinance, as well as general programs and policies. So we'll quickly review each of those. For the comprehensive plan, I'll just go ahead and quickly review these. Consider a more flexible mix of housing unit type percentages in planned neighborhood districts. Continue to identify future planned neighborhoods and planned mixed-use areas on the future land use map, and continue to place buildings with 10+ units on primary corridors to facilitate potential future transit stops and encourage mixed use or commercial components. The recommendations for the subdivision ordinance include neighborhood design features that help accommodate new housing supply, such as alleys, reduced street widths, and sidewalks. The zoning ordinance recommendations mainly aim to encourage more development of missing middle housing types. These include cottage courts, ADUs, or accessory dwelling units, which can be attached or unattached on a single family lot and are typically 900 square feet or below. And then also smaller multifamily apartments. The recommended programs and policies include consider extending TID districts for affordable housing funds, continue to work with Dane County on regional housing issues, and continue to explore opportunities to improve ADA accessibility. Cottage Grove has already made progress and some accomplishments, including informing the Plan Commission about housing issues, reducing parking requirements in the zoning code, removing building coverage limitations from the zoning code, which allows you to build more housing on less land, and extended TID number 7, allocating $800,000 to the village's housing initiatives. TID extensions are a unique housing financing tool in Wisconsin. Once a TIF district is created, property tax revenue from new developments in the TID can be used to finance other projects in the district. The state has created a tool where the life of the TID can be extended for 1 year if the increment collected during that year is used by the municipality toward housing initiatives. There are documents in your binder with more details about some of these, such as the TID extension project plan and zoning code changes. The TID extension project plan calls for an investment into affordable housing development with 2 to 8 rental units affordable to households earning 80% of the village's median household income, or a sales price equal to or less than 80% of the village's median home price. I'm wondering, Erin, are there any updates on this or any additional progress I didn't touch on? I know the TID project has been on hold for a little bit now.
Yeah, so the Lakewood development presented a concept back in December, January. They were interested in potentially tapping into those funds. That project's kind of fizzled out, I guess, for lack of a better word. And some of the money that was going to go towards sewer infrastructure was also related to that project. So that's kind of also on hold until something else comes forward or until they come back.
Sure. Thank you for that.
We could also change that project plan and use it in a different way too. So that's another option for us to consider.
Okay, so we're first going to look at regional data to understand the context and trends impacting the county. Then we'll move on to local data for Cottage Grove. This data is from the Regional Housing Strategy 5-year action plan that launched last year after a year-long planning process with the Housing Advisory Committee, which I will refer to as the RHS. This is just to give a better sense of what's happening county-wide in the region, because these trends really connect the region, and it's hard to solve the housing crisis one community at a time. The RHS also helps to provide a shared understanding among stakeholders, community organizations, and community members. The action plan was a widely collaborative effort, and the Housing Advisory Committee is comprised of over 80 stakeholders, including community organizations, private sector partners, and 17 municipal leaders. It also had 26 sponsors from a variety of public, private, and nonprofit agencies such as WIDA, Habitat for Humanity, and Dane County municipalities. Okay, so Dane County is the fastest growing county in the state, with population increasing across all age cohorts. While there's been some population stagnation in the rest of the state, Dane County continues to grow quickly. The cohort between ages of 15 and 34 is growing 22.6% faster than the state as a whole. The county's senior population is also growing faster than the rest of the state by 17.2%. This calls for addressing and paying attention to the housing needs of our aging population as the baby boomers continue to age. The overall growth rate for people aged 65 and older is expected to be 1.5 times higher than the overall population. Affordable senior housing, both renter or for sale, is essential to market mobility because it ensures senior households have options for downsizing from single-family homes. The county has been underproducing housing relative to its growth for years, contributing to our housing shortage. For every 5 new households added in Dane County from 2010 to 2020, only 4 new housing units were added. 42,000 new households came to Dane County between 2010 to 2020. However, only 34,000 new housing units were permitted during that period. From 2010 to 2020, the number of new households was 8,000 more than the number of housing units being built. This has many impacts, including reducing inventory and lowering vacancy rates, driving up prices, preventing residents from becoming homeowners, forcing households to compete for shrinking inventory, both renters and home buyers. I want to check in and see if there are any questions so far, anything. Okay, great. In addition to general population growth, Dane County is experiencing some significant job growth. We're seeing a tremendous increase of jobs coming to the region, but we aren't building enough housing to accommodate new households. From 2010 to 2021, the county added over 38,000 jobs. Employment growth in the county was more than double the growth rate for the state of Wisconsin overall, with 14% growth compared to 6% statewide. The county accounted for 27% of Wisconsin's job growth during this period. So as you can see in this graph, employment growth is outpacing household growth, creating a widening gap between jobs and residents, adding downward pressure on housing markets and vacancy rates. This indicates that more people want to live here than are able to. This shows that the county's population is projected to grow across all income levels, with a higher growth rate for households on the higher end of the income spectrum. The Housing Advisory Committee identified racial disparities as one of their priorities. This shows the county's disparities in home ownership rates by race, especially for Black or African American residents. This graph shows the county's declining vacancy rate over time, and that the vacancy rate has been consistently under 3% below the national average, indicating a lack of housing supply. This demonstrates the inverse relationship between housing supply and housing cost. The blue line represents the median house price to median household income ratio, and the orange line represents the number of single-family building permits per 1,000 population. As permitting and supply declines, as you can see with the orange line, housing costs rise, outpacing household income and growth. Home prices have been increasingly rising for the county. For the 2 years between 2020 and 2022 alone, so just 2 years, the median home price rose by $95,000. Newer housing units built in 2010 or later have a price premium of $95,000, creating homes that average $450,000. Homes built in 2009 and earlier are around $355,000. We call this the big squeeze. It's showing our housing supply gap for renters. Households that are lower income must compete with higher income households for low inventory. The graph shows that we have 13,300 less affordable units than the number of households making 30% AMI or below. There's also a deficit of housing at higher income levels, making higher earning households pursue lower cost units, adding pressure to the market.
Alex,
Yes.
just AMI, maybe everyone's not familiar with
Yeah,
that.
thank you. Area median income, and that's used to determine housing costs for subsidized affordable housing. It's targeted based on income levels. Anyone have any follow-up questions about that? Okay.
Just to provide some context, a family of two that's making just to provide some context, a family of two that's making 60% of the area median income is bringing in about $62,000 a year in Dane County.
The housing supply gap for homeowners follows a similar trend of lower and higher income households seeking units affordable to other income brackets, driving up all housing prices. So this is looking at development patterns over time. Up to the 1950s, we were developing 29 dwelling units per acre. Between 1950 to 1980, that went down to 12 dwelling units per acre. And then in the 80s to now, we're building on average 8 dwelling units per acre. This is another contributing factor to our housing shortage. This is also the case for the state and the nation, and we've been predominantly building single-family homes. Single-family districts often restrict townhomes, condominiums, or small multifamily units. Lot size can restrict the amount of units being developed and prevent smaller, lower-cost homes from the market. These are some examples at the bottom of this image of missing middle housing types. They represent a variety of housing types that aren't single-family or high-rise apartments. So the Housing Advisory Committee identified the following top 5 housing priorities. By the way, these reflect many of the recommendations coming from Cottage Grove's current housing chapter and housing study. Number 1, increase the number of housing units attainable to low and moderate income households. 2, increase the overall number of housing units. 3, provide housing, resources, and protections for the most vulnerable populations. 4, rehabilitate and preserve affordability of existing housing. And 5, provide more pathways to home ownership. Here are the overall housing production goals that the RHS calls for between 2020 and 2040. And this breaks down those production goals on an annual basis, calling for 7,000 new housing units annually. 7,000 is 2,000 more than the county is currently producing on average. 26% of all new housing units should be affordable to households making 60% AMI or below. The Housing Advisory Committee also identified the need for the creation of new affordable single-family homes each year. We're currently only producing 25 affordable single-family homes annually with acquisition and rehab, mainly through Habitat for Humanity and the Madison Area Community Land Trust. The Housing Advisory Committee also identified a need for 300 new senior housing units annually. Here are the RHS's municipal allocations for meeting annual production goals. It identifies a need for Cottage Grove to produce an average of 105 units annually. However, it's important to note that housing development is lumpy, and these goals are based on annual averages. Okay, does anyone have any questions at this point? Great. Before I move on to local data, I just want to quickly provide an overview of some of the key points that we've discussed. Dane County's housing demand is outpacing supply, with jobs and population growing rapidly. Affordability is declining with low vacancy rates and rising home prices. There's a severe gap in affordable units, and competition for limited inventory is driving up costs, and development patterns have contributed to the shortage. Before wrapping up, okay, never mind. All right, now for the local level data, looking at Cottage Grove housing trends. Between 2013 and 2023, Cottage Grove saw an influx of 1,599 residents. As of 2023, Cottage Grove had a total of 7,906 residents, the lowest of these comparison communities. The light blue line shows the trajectory of Cottage Grove's growth between 1970 and 2020, demonstrating steady growth since the 90s. The Wisconsin DOA provides population estimates and projections for the state, and I've included the most recent estimate for Cottage Grove's population in 2024, which, as you can see here, is 9,345 residents. Here are the population projections. The light blue line shows Cottage Grove's projected population growth between 2025 and 2050, provided by the DOA. According to the DOA, Cottage Grove will approximately add 10,500 people by 2050. However, I do also want to mention that the DOA has been under projecting population growth for the county, so a regional work group has been meeting to update these projections, and they're currently finalizing those numbers, so I'm going to bring back those updated numbers and present them to you at our next meeting, along with a housing demand forecast. The median age of Cottage Grove residents as of 2023 is 40, which is comparable to the state median age. Between 2013 and 2023, the median age of Cottage Grove residents increased by 4.2% from age 35.8 to 40, which is the most out of these comparison communities in the county and the state. As of 2023, Cottage Grove had a total of 1,890 residents aged 55 and up. Between 2019 and 2023, the village's senior population grew by 23.9%, which is faster than the growth rate seen during the previous 5 years, as you can see on this graph. This mirrors senior population growth nationwide as well. (13.5% of Cottage Grove's residents are age 65 or older, growing by 5.3% since 2013. This age cohort is growing faster in Cottage Grove, again, than the county. So median household income. For Cottage Grove, their median household income in 2023 was $132,700 approximately. This is one of the highest out of the comparison communities. This pie chart shows a breakdown of the population by race and ethnicity, with 3% Black residents, 5.4% Hispanic or Latino, 6.3% mixed race, and 8.6% Asian American. And then just for some context, this is Cottage Grove's race and ethnicity makeup compared to the counties. Cottage Grove has a higher proportion of Asian American residents than the county. The average number of people per household is generally declining across all communities, but Cottage Grove has seen the steepest decline compared to these. This may correlate with the growth of the senior population. In 2023, the average household size was 2.4 members of the household. Cottage Grove's average household size is lower than the state and national averages, which are also trending downward. This graph shows the number of bedrooms per each unit that make up the village's housing stock. Despite a declining average household size, the village has a shortage of smaller unit sizes, including 0, 1, and 2 bedroom units. Any questions at this point?
Sorry, I have a couple questions, but just about
Sure.
the data, like how, and maybe you'll go over this. How are
Yeah.
these comparison communities determined?
So we collected data for most of the cities and villages in the county, and then these were comparable as well. And for the purposes of the graph, we had to condense, and we couldn't include all of them, but we have the data for all of them.
But we chose those because of the size,
Mhm.
comparable, smaller cities and villages.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Alex, where did the data come from?
Came from the U.S. Census Bureau, and we used a majority of the data from the American Community Survey 5-year estimates.
Katie, are you interested in seeing other municipal comparisons? Would you like to see other municipal comparisons?
I was really just curious on how these were selected. It
Mhm.
makes sense, they're villages, so that makes
Yeah.
sense to me.
Right.
I think if the committee wants to see other comparisons,
Right.
that would be interesting, but I don't know how much, maybe you can tell us how much a municipality's government setup would affect things like population and housing and growth. Like, what would a city versus a village do differently that a village is more comparable?
Well, some of these are
Some of these are cities as well, yeah. We collected for both cities and villages. Aaron also helped us select some of these.
And they were the ones that were chosen in your last update. So we thought it would be best to be consistent. But happy to answer that other question about housing
Mhm.
policy and things that cities or villages might do differently in terms
Mhm.
of government structure and bringing forward more housing.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay. So this shows the amount of unit types making up the village's housing stock. Cottage Grove has the fewest 3 to 9 bedroom units out of these comparison communities, and a majority of single-family homes. This shows the proportion of single-family homes versus multifamily units making up Cottage Grove's housing stock, with 74.2% single-family.
And countywide, that average is about 65%.
Just a quick question, multifamily unit, and for this definition, when we look at this, like duplex, fourplex?
Yeah, anything above,
Okay,
yes,
Thank you.
2 and above. This shows the number of units produced by year in the village. Cottage Grove has a limited amount of older housing stock, which tends to be more affordable than newer housing stock. And this is that same graph, but with percentages.
Yeah, it's important to remember when we're looking at older housing stock that that's about 95% of the affordable workforce housing we have. Older housing stock, as Alex was saying, tends to cost less, and so yeah, although we're building new affordable units every year, like I said, about 95 or maybe even closer to 98% of all of the affordable workforce housing we have already exists in older housing stock.
This shows the amount of residential building permits approved in Cottage Grove within a 10-year span between 2014 and 2024. There are the fewest residential permits for buildings with between 2 to 4 units. You can also see a spike of multifamily units in 2021. That's the year that the affordable housing project Glen Grove opened, so that could help be one of the reasons why there's such a skyrocket there. As of 2023, Cottage Grove had a significantly lower vacancy rate than comparison communities at only 0.9%. A healthy vacancy rate is considered to fall between 5 and 7%. This further illustrates Cottage Grove's steep decline in vacancy between 2019 and 2023. Okay, before I move on at this point to the next slide, I just want to kind of throw out a pop quiz to you all. Would anyone like to guess Cottage Grove's median rent price in 2023?
Don't turn
No
the
cheating.
page.
Wasn't it 1,500?
Yes. Good job. What about the median home value? Any guesses?
450,000?
Close. We'll get there. Okay, yes, you were correct. The median gross rent is $1,500. Out of these communities, you can see it's the highest. And then the median home value, also one of the highest, hovering above 400,000. Of these comparison communities, Cottage Grove has the highest proportion of renters experiencing housing cost burden, and 20% of homeowners experiencing housing cost burden as well. Cost burden is when a household is paying over 30% of their monthly income toward housing costs. This forces lower income households to have to decide between their basic needs like medication or food. This slide shows that as of 2022, over half of Cottage Grove residents commute outside of the village, and that 41% commute in. Only 3% of residents both live and work in Cottage Grove. So just a couple of special considerations to keep in mind. I mentioned Glen Grove, developed by Movin' Out. It added 100 affordable units to Cottage Grove's housing stock. These units range from 1, 2, and 3 bedrooms. There's also a fully accessible playground on site. Units are targeted to households at a range of income levels, from those making 30% AMI to market rate. Cottage Grove will also have a large influx in the local workforce upon the opening of a new large Amazon facility, bringing up to 1,500 jobs to the village. So I've covered a lot of information. Any other questions at this point? Could do a quick overview. Here are some key points to keep in mind. The village is growing and aging. Population is steadily increasing with a fast-growing senior population. Housing is getting more expensive. Rents and home prices are high. Vacancy is low. And households, especially renters, are spending more than they can afford on housing. There's a mismatch between who lives here and what housing is available. Households are getting smaller, but most of the housing is still big single-family homes. And commuting patterns show that much of the local workforce commutes in, indicating a lack of workforce housing. With new job growth on the way, the pressure on housing will increase. Any questions? Happy to go back and review slides again that you want to look at further. Okay, well, this is time for our break now. So we have a 5-minute break. We're gonna get the discussion set up, and we'll see you back here in 5. Thank you. Hi, JP, you still with us?
I am.
Do you have any questions? I just want to check in with you.
No, and I also forgot to mention, thanks so much for accommodating me, and that goes to not only you all and by sending the discussion questions all the time, but also the village staff. So I know it's not
Of course, we're
the
glad that we could.
easiest or quickest setup here, so thanks you.
Good, good. I'm glad. Of course. Okay. For our group discussions today, we want to start to get a sense of your top housing concerns, priorities, and strategies. We'll be using the language of priorities, strategies, and action items to use a little more action-oriented of language. Priorities are broad and overarching and should aim to address the village's top housing concerns. I do, thank you. Here we go. And then strategies are the key approaches used to achieve top priorities and inform action items. These also could be a little broader, like a policy or a program. And then the action items are the specific tactical things that you want to do to achieve those strategies. We prepared some examples just to kind of put this into context for you. So, example would be create a sustainable, climate-friendly cottage grove. That could be a priority. A strategy under that could be increase bike and pedestrian infrastructure and access. And then a couple of action items would include identify funding and locations for bike lanes and sidewalks, and bring Zipcar or B-Cycle to Cottage Grove. Another example of a priority would be expand missing middle housing in Cottage Grove. A strategy could be define missing middle housing types, land use policies, and strategies to increase their supply. And then action items could be to update zoning code to allow for a wider variety of missing middle housing types, and update the subdivision ordinance to allow for alleyways.
Before we start, does everyone kind of get that priority, strategy, action item, bigger goal, program or policy, and then tactical, specific?
Great, thank you. So just to mention really quickly, we're also going to have a discussion to identify shared values, which I will explain when we get to that point. I also wanted to let you know that we've prepared some sample priorities, sample core values, and sample strategies to aid your discussion today. But we want to emphasize that these are just samples, and you're welcome to come up with your own or change the language however you best see fit. We also have blank cards. We'll be handing out cards to you all, and we have blank ones for you to add your own. The cards will have each of these numbers on them. Each discussion will build upon each other. We'll take notes during, assess and refine the top priorities and strategies that you've identified, and then present them back to you at the next meeting for feedback and refinement. During the discussion, feel free to flip through your materials or ask any questions of me, Olivia, Aaron, however we can help. We'll start by discussing Cottage Grove's top housing priorities to address major areas of concern. Please think about your individual priorities personally, as well as the top priorities for the general community, businesses, and the future of Cottage Grove. Many of these sample priorities are informed by the Cottage Grove housing study and the existing housing chapter, as well as the regional and local data we reviewed, and some of the trends identified in the RHS. The wording, again, feel free to change the wording. This is not final, and this is an iterative process that will be refined as we progress. We just really want to get a sense of your thoughts. We'll take about 5 to 10 minutes to identify your top 4. When you're done, let me know, and I'll ask you to share those, and we'll tally them on the posters. If there are priorities you identified but didn't make it to the top, those could potentially be refined into strategies or action items going forward, so don't worry if there's something you felt was really important. We can integrate it later. Some of these are broad, some are more specific, but we really just wanted to give you an opportunity to identify what's important to you. I believe Olivia handed out the cards to you all. You each have your own set of sample priorities. So feel free to look through those and look through your materials or ask any questions and identify your top 4.
Development patterns are sort of opposite in terms of population growth. Remember that image that Alex showed you where there's we are decreasing the number of units, housing units we're building per acre as the population increases. So that's what that means.
Can we move the microphone out? I just don't know if JP can hear you.
Yeah, he can't hear you unless you're to a mic. Yeah.
The top one, development patterns are an opposite of population growth, as we saw in that slide. The number of units we're building per acre is going down while the population is going up, so that's what that one refers to. Increased the cost of land is has far been outpacing wages for decades. Increased the cost of labor and construction materials is ongoing and consistently rising. We have very low vacancy rates. Cottage Grove in particular, in comparison to its neighboring communities, is at a 0.9% vacancy rate. Outdated zoning codes. Village is growing and aging, as many of the other communities in the nation is. Housing prices keep going up, and household sizes are actually going down. And then workforce commutes into village. Most of the workforce commutes into the village. And overall, we're seeing job growth across the county, but also in, especially in Cottage Grove, as you are about to house Amazon's new distribution facility. So there's some of the key points that were raised, and as Alex said, we'll take the next 5 to 10 minutes, go through your cards, identify what personally is the most important thing, or your areas of concern, and then think about the community at large, the business community, the workforce, and the future of Cottage Grove, and then we'll just check in with you in a few minutes. Priorities. Feel free to ask any questions. And also, if you don't see what is most important to you, or if you see a variance, want to use one of the blank cards to write that variance.
I have a question. Can you define aging in place?
Aging in place is, well, it means several different things, but aging in place is can mean where someone who is in a community actually has the capacity and the wherewithal to modify their home so that they can actually age in their home, and if not, they can actually downsize within their community.
Okay, so in terms of number 5, we're talking about the second definition then. Increased supply of senior housing.
Correct.
So okay, thank you.
And then just to clarify number 7, it says build capacity to address housing needs. Capacity could be anything from investment to additional staffing or communications infrastructure or village board infrastructure, like adding a housing committee or, yeah.
I have another question. Are you seeing any trends in what first-time homeowners or home buyers and young families are looking for in housing? Because I'm looking at number 14, support development of affordable single-family homes for first-time home buyers and young families, and also just wondering about diversifying housing stock. Like, is there any data that would show like young families are interested in townhomes and duplexes more so than single-family homes? Do we know?
The trend is that people are being locked out of home ownership, period. And townhomes tend to be less expensive than a single family on a, especially the new ones, on a single lot. We do know that townhomes and condominiums are significantly in demand for the older population, thus being able to free up that single family home that they're living in. I haven't read any market data in terms of young families. I just know that there's a huge demand to get into housing and people are being locked out of it. And just as an example, like I was born in the 60s, and when I was born, the median income to the median home price was 1 to 3, and now it's 1 to 5. So it's the average first-time home buyer in the 60s when I was born, 23. Now it's 35, so, and going up. Yeah.
Just checking in on where we are with selecting top 4. We all ready? Okay, great. We'll collect them. Sure. Who would like to start by reading their top 4? Thank you.
Okay, so my personal top 4, increased supply of senior housings.
Hold on a second.
Oh.
So it's one exercise?
Oh, okay, I didn't know.
4 for each? You just get 4 total.
No. Because I was going to swap a couple of them, what I thought the community might. Okay, you go
You want me to
ahead,
go while you- okay.
I'll retool.
Add more workforce housing for local workforce. 5, increase supply of senior housing. 9, increase overall supply. And 12, diversify.
I can go.
Could you just put your the ones that you get right there, and then put them at the end here? The ones that you're prioritized right there. Just the 4, yeah, great. Put them on top. And then put the rest of your.
I'll go. 13, raise community awareness about the local housing crisis, housing shortage. 12, diversify the housing stock. 4, make housing information and resources available for current and future residents and developers. And 3, provide resources and protections for the most vulnerable populations.
All right. Number 5, increase supply of senior housing so people can age in place. Okay, so I put a paper clip of 2 of them together. So, and I'll tell you why. So I did number 6, increase supply of housing units available to low and moderate income households. But I also combined it with make housing more accessible to underrepresented groups, because we know from the stats you guys just provided that income is an underrepresented group. So I didn't know which one to classify that better in.
Okay, we'll give it to you. That's 4 and 6? No. That's
6 and 10.
6 and 10, okay.
Okay,
Can we give
Paula.
Paula? Since you didn't put it all in one, I mean, we could just write it in the same thing, but let's just.
Okay. And then, thank you.
Yes.
I feel like they mesh. And then number 11, design housing in neighborhoods that are safe and reflect and build on neighborhood character. And then the last one being number 14, support development of affordable single-family homes for first-time home buyers and young families.
I can go. Mine were actually the same as Chris's and sort of Paula's. I combined 12 and 14. Yeah. So to diversifying housing stock and increase supply of townhomes, condos, missing middle rentals, and small format single-family homes to provide for first-time homebuyers and young families. And then 1, 5, and 9 were my other ones.
Increase supply of senior housing, excuse me. And then you said 9?
Mm-hmm.
Increase overall,
JP, are you ready to share?
I am. So for me, I have pretty much everyone that we discussed. So 13, raise community awareness about local housing crisis, housing shortage. 5, increase overall supply of housing units.
Could you repeat that again? It's a little muffled, so slowly, please. Thank you.
Sure. Let me also try something else. Okay. Is this a little bit better? Audio
Yes,
quality?
thank you.
Yeah. 13, raise community awareness about local housing crisis, housing shortage. 5, increase overall supply of housing units. 1, add more housing for our local workforce.
Sorry, we just need to clarify. Okay.
overall supply of housing, that's number 9, because I think he got a different iteration.
Oh, you're at,
Maybe.
sorry, I couldn't see. Now I see what you're doing. Okay.
What was your second one?
Oh, I think my notes got jumbled. Increase overall supply of housing units.
Okay, thank you. Now number
For-
3, please.
Yeah. Oh, I got shifted. I'm sorry. 3 was number 1, add more housing for our local workforce.
Thank you. Number 4.
Diversify housing stock and increase supply.
Perfect. Thank you.
Can I ask a question or make a comment? The number 5 about increasing supply of housing, senior housing. So when you say so people can age in place, I mean, the other piece to add to that is so it also frees up single family homes, right? So like, you know what I mean? I don't know if that would change anybody's viewpoints on that, but it just, just a side note that I wanted to throw in there.
If you want to change that wording, you're able to do that too. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, if that's one of our top ones, just adding in, and so it adds, whatever, like, yeah, please.
These are really just,
Sorry, can you remind us again, what was the age in place definition? Because we're not talking about
Yeah.
age in place in the same house, but
In this context, we're talking about the ability for senior residents to stay in their communities by downsizing 2 units that are in their communities. It can also refer to when they make modifications to their home to actually stay in their current home. But for this sample priority, we're discussing the first one.
I mean, oh, no. It's like a turtle or something. So number 12, I think received the most, diversify housing stock and increase supply of townhomes, condominiums, missing middle, rentals, small format, single family homes. Tied for second is add more housing for our local workforce, teachers, retail workers, and public employees, increase supply of senior housing so people can age in place, increase overall supply of housing, and yeah, that was the second. So what we're going to do is we're going to take these back to and we're going to go through a few more exercises, and then we're going to bring these back, and some of them probably might get combined, but we're going to try and narrow down the number of priorities to 4 or 5 for the Cottage Grove, and then put the rest of the strategies and action items underneath that. So we'll bring this back, give it some thinking after we've seen your results from the next 2 exercises, and yeah, so next time we'll have that for you.
Thanks, everyone. We're going to move on to core values. This is an opportunity for you to identify the core values you'll use to inform your strategies and action items, and for the future of housing development in Cottage Grove. These values may not necessarily be explicitly stated in your strategies and action items, but they'll be understood to inform your overall approach. These should be easy to connect to and easily understood by broader audiences. We haven't yet attached any language to define these, but based on your priorities and strategies, we'll bring back some draft definitions and get your feedback and refine. Again, we've prepared some samples, but feel free to come up with your own or change them how you see fit. And then we'll go through the same process again like we just did. So you have about 5 minutes to, when you get your cards, you'll have about 5 minutes to look through them, discuss amongst yourselves, ask any questions. This is 4 to 5. You have you can select your top 4 to 5.
Did you say you do have definitions for these or no?
We don't. We're going to frame them based on our discussions today and then come back next week. But if you have ideas, next meeting, next meeting. But if you have ideas of definitions, feel free to let us know.
Who's still working? You're done. You're done. Oh, you're still working? Okay. No, just leave it up there. We'll just put them right over it. Chris, are you done? Okay. You're done? You ready? Okay. So. Okay. Okay. Lorraine, you want to start?
Economic growth, number 1. Number 11, economic stability.
Yeah, you don't have a 5 or a 10 on there, so it's just.
Wait, economic stability, where's,
Oh, my numbers don't match.
it's okay.
Okay, I won't read the numbers anymore. Empowerment. Informed and engaged community.
Okay,
And affordability.
excellent. Just put them, the ones you chose up, and then the other ones down on the front of your desk. Okay, who wants to go next?
I can go. Economic growth, affordability, accountability, access to information, and informed and engaged community.
Informed, okay. Great, thank you. Chris?
Economic growth, affordability, adaptive, equity, informed and engaged community.
Informed and engaged community?
Economic growth, affordability, equity, empowerment, and I have a definition if you want one, financial well-being, and home ownership as a wealth building tool. And then the last one, economic stability. Thank you. JP?
JP, are you ready?
Yes, I am. Economic stability. Affordability. Adaptive. Informed and engaged community. That's it?
Thank you.
Just to summarize, affordability, number 1, informed and engaged community and economic growth, number 2, and the third one, economic stability, but also equity, adaptive, and empowerment, also got 2 points, 2 votes. Same with this exercise. We'll take this back, come up with some definitions, and next time we'll narrow down. I don't think we can have 14 core values for Cottage Grove. I think we'll probably want to narrow that down to 4 to maybe 6. We'll work with you next time to refine that. Thank you. Now we're going to finish the next 12 or so minutes. We're going to look at priorities. We might not be able to get through this entire exercise, but we want to start to, strategies. We want to start to understand what your priorities are in terms of housing strategies for Cottage Grove.
No, yes.
Great.
Thank you.
So the strategies are also up on the wall to your right and in front of you. The ones that are an asterisk, I don't know if you can actually see those. I will circle them. Those are actually right from the housing chapter or the study that you did, the ad hoc housing committee study. And yeah, just want to make sure you know where most of these are coming from. And then we added others, of course, based on the data and local and regional data, and some of the other issues that have been identified through this process with the RHS. So I'm circling the ones that have come out of previous Cottage Grove work, just so you can, doesn't mean you have to pick.
Most of them have the same wording. Some of them are more condensed or broad.
Are we doing 4 or 5 again?
This one is 5.
5, okay.
Mhm.
Are we going to have dialogue around these as well? Is that next time?
Yeah,
Oh, okay. Good.
but feel free to ask any questions if you want, as we're going through this process.
Or discuss amongst yourselves as well.
Or ask Aaron.
Well, like if we're adding our own one that's not here, like it would be helpful to know why or, what's behind it kind of thing.
Absolutely.
That's, yeah. Okay.
And you might pick, maybe you'll all land on 10 of these as opposed to 15 or 20. Doesn't mean that these will go away. They could very easily wind up as strategies or action items, because some of them are strategies, some of them are action items. But we're really just trying to get a sense of what your priorities are, your major concerns are, to help us focus and provide a framework for further refinement.
Aaron, how much life is left in TID number 7?
Trick question.
That's the one that was extended for the Affordable Housing Fund, but it is closed now.
We'll give you another couple of minutes. Let me know if anybody's ready.
JP is ready.
Hmm?
JP is ready.
JP, ready? Okay. Yeah, if you have any questions, please feel free to raise your hand or, yeah.
Erin, I actually have a question for you. So are there any additional updates on like coordinating with landowners to open up suitable undeveloped areas? If that was identified before, like what has happened so far and how did that go and what was the result? If any.
Yeah, there are other areas. Lakewood had come forward on the up-off property. That was a new area that was being looked at. The owner of the farm golf course is starting to make some movements in the direction of working on that. There's a property along Vilas Road that the property owner there is starting to work on some designs. So there are some other areas that could be coming on board.
I'll let you know that number 25, that came up as part of the regional housing strategy. Builders and developers talked about the importance of that helping to facilitate housing production. So we have small corridors, large corridors throughout the county and municipalities all over the county that are unplanned. And the idea that providing a plan for those corridors would help facilitate development because developers would then know what you're looking for and where you want it. And it also could help begin the discussion between housing and transportation and those links. So corridor planning has a number of different facets to it. I'm not sure, have you done corridor planning?
Not really. I was going to say East Wash was kind of an example where there was a corridor plan and then
Right.
it led to all the apartments.
Right. And
bus
Monona,
rapid transit and all that.
right. And then in Monona Drive, they did a corridor plan. But it doesn't have to be large arterials. It could be small, smaller ones. And it doesn't have to have transit on it. It's just the idea that, if there's a plan in place, then developers have an understanding of what you're looking for. People ready? Okay. You're the are you the last one to order when you're out at dinner? Me too.
Can I start since I have one that's a written card? That way, if anybody agrees, they might want to switch their vote. So my handwritten card is to incentivize attainable home ownership. And the example of that is like through down payment assistance, community land trusts, or a program like Renew Monona. So I wrote that all on the card, so you have that too. But that wasn't on the list.
Can you just repeat that again? Incentivize attainable home ownership, and then, for example, which was what?
Down payment assistance, community land trust, and Renew Monona. And by incentivize, I mean different than like Habitat or that sort of thing, where we would actually incentivize developers, possibly through TIF funds. Just to clarify. Yeah. It could be. It could be. Yeah.
And Paula, I'm sure you know, the Renew Monona also gives low-interest loans to
Correct.
homeowners individually. So if
Yep.
you have especially because Monona has such a high ratio of older homes,
Yes.
that anything that is, you're remodeling or putting new bathrooms in or updating your home, they'll provide low-interest home.
2%,
Yeah,
which is like unreal for a loan interest rate.
I think it's up to $50,000
Mhm.
is outside of the CDA.
Yep. Okay, so there's that one. And then number 1, create attractive and safe neighborhoods well served by municipal services and facilities. Number 4, create more senior housing. 13, increase supply of owner-occupied affordable single-family housing and small format housing, Habitat for Humanity, MACLT. Oh no, you're missing it. Bummer. Yeah, 12, we must be missing a page. Number 13. Yep, it's increased supply of owner-occupied affordable single-family home. And you could just put like Habitat or something, like. Yeah. Yeah, it's like small format housing, Habitat for Humanity or MA, yep. And then unfortunately, I have another one that's not on the paper, which is number 16. Continue to explore opportunities to improve ADA accessibility and connectivity throughout neighborhoods in Cottage Grove. And since I didn't really see a card related to that, I kind of grouped in or wanted to group in more green space into that. So part of the neighborhood connectivity, pocket parks, more green space, like I kind of wanted to lump it in with that because I wasn't sure where to put it.
Let's just make it its own.
Okay.
Pocket parks and more green space?
Yes, please. And for JP, they're breaking out green space pocket parks from the improving ADA accessibility.
Thanks, Paula.
Number 16, that was kind of joint with the pocket parks. And then the incentivize attainable home ownership was my own card.
Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
Number 11, update local zoning code. 12, add smaller units and increase overall supply of rental units.
I see what happened. It's under here. You put 2 in here. Let's liberate this. So, let's start again. Chris.
Okay. It was 12 and 11 that I had. She can put another one there. Two votes. Yep. No. 5, develop more pedestrian bike-friendly housing in neighborhoods. 7, selectively increase density. I'm less concerned with the rest of that, but the first 3 words are good. 19, increase missing middle supply.
And, Paul, can we just do yours again, because I want to clean this up a little bit. I just want to make sure we got yours.
Yeah, you've got 13. You cross that one off on the paper, and then 16, you could put a mark down by that one and cross it off on the other paper. You're welcome.
And then the pocket parks, right?
Correct.
Okay, excellent.
I can go, but I have a clarifying question between number 3 and number 5.
I was a little hung up on that too. I think one is new housing and the other is maybe updating older neighborhoods to be more well-served by.
Yeah, this is more related to transit, this is more related to connectivity within.
Okay.
With these modes.
Okay.
All right, just to clarify, which one's connectivity within, is that 3?
That's 3, yep.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so I have number 3. 19, increase the supply of missing middle.
Far left. Oh, sorry. It's okay. There we go.
23, identify resources for the preservation of older housing stock.
Okay.
And number 9, coordinate residential development with the school district. And I don't know that needs to be new development, but
Just in general.
in general, yes.
I had I was trying to figure out between 3 and 5 too, and based on what you said, can I switch my 5 to a 3?
So you did a 3.
I didn't do 3, but I want to switch the 5 to the 3. Yeah. Thank you.
Go. 11, update local zoning code. 9, coordinate residential development with school district to ensure adequate capacity. 8, design neighborhoods that provide a range of housing types, densities, and cost. 5, develop more pedestrian bike-friendly housing. And 18, make Cottage Grove more inclusive to diverse populations.
JP, would you like to share?
Of course. Mine are 11, update local zoning code. 6, use the future land use plan to specify locations. 8, design neighborhoods that provide a range of housing types, densities, etc. 19, increase the supply of missing middle housing. And 24, encourage private and nonprofit housing developers.
Thank you. Everyone's gone. So I think that wraps up our discussions. Like Olivia mentioned, we'll be bringing these back with us and doing some assessing and combining and rewording and present new drafts to you at our next meeting. Next week. No, I'm just kidding. Not next week.
given the votes for changing the zoning ordinance, I don't know if you guys want to touch on the other project we have.
Oh,
going
the
on.
zoning ordinance?
Well, the other project we're working on with the county, the updating the template.
Right, yeah, good idea. So this is something that we could present at the next meeting. We're creating a best practices in residential zoning guide. We're working with a consultant to develop it, and it's been a process that engages the municipalities throughout to really make it as useful of a tool as possible. It's a 3-part tool. It includes a checklist, model zoning districts, as well as some best practices and case studies. So we'll have that by the next meeting, and that could be potentially something that you all utilize or we present to you, and you go from there with how you want to use it.
That sounds good. I'd like to see that.
Great. We will plan for that.
I would also like to see that as well.
Awesome, definitely. All right, we have a few more things to accomplish today. So in your binder, if you could please flip to the public participation plan toward the back of your binder, and just take a moment or so to review them. We sent them to you, hopefully you saw. But just review that participation plan, and then we'll take a vote on that. Again, this is a requirement for comprehensive planning in the state.
Did everyone have a chance to read it? Do you want to just kind of go over what, kind of give them a brief review?
Yeah.
Has everyone seen it, or yes?
Yeah, we had it
okay,
in our
yes,
packet.
seen it?
Mhm.
Yes, you've seen it, okay, and has everyone kind of taken a look at it? Okay.
It essentially covers this work with the Ad Hoc Housing Chapter Update Committee, the project website, which I'll go over shortly, the Community Housing Survey, and then the final public hearing.
And the overall purpose is to make sure that as many Cottage Grove residents, beyond yourselves, have an opportunity to provide feedback and participate in the process. Any questions?
Do you need a motion? Like you said, you need approval, or like?
Aaron?
All right, I would move approval of the proposed 2025 Housing Chapter Update Public Participation Plan.
I'll second.
Second, okay. Any discussion?
I have a question.
I just have one.
Oh. Yeah.
Go
You
ahead.
and then I'll follow up.
What's that, JP?
I was gonna say you can go, but I guess since I'm before, I'll just take it right now, quick. I guess I'm gonna play devil's advocate. We have the public hearing, but do we want to have something that's kind of like information sessions, like we've done with some of our other plans out there, to kind of help engage the community a little bit more?
It's possible, sure. Can you just provide a little bit more detail about what you're thinking about? Like, would this be would this be at a standing meeting, or would this be apart from a standing meeting? And yeah, where do you think it would be good in the process to do that?
Yeah, so I would say, outside of a standing meeting, ideally just like an opportunity to open up for more of a Q&A. I mean, the public hearing kind of does get to that a little bit more, but I think us having a couple different meeting types or different meeting times has been beneficial in our community, given some of the limitations of turnout due to various people's schedule. I'm thinking of here in the village, we've had a couple for like a police station, the library, referendum, where we had
Yeah, so these are like
two
open houses.
And JP, I'm thinking, are you thinking too, like before we actually present the chapter plan, like before we get to that point where we've finalized it, like before that?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we'll still need to have something a little bit more concrete, some ideas or resources or information so that it's not like so open-ended, we don't accomplish much, but the public does need to have some idea of like what we're working towards so they can provide some of that feedback or input in there.
I would amend my motion then to include 2 information sessions prior to the public hearing.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
So just a kind of point of order question. We didn't really elect a chair for this.
Not necessarily sure we needed one.
Yeah.
Kind of
Okay.
running the agenda.
Okay. I guess you're our chair.
Okay.
I think as long as we have a minute taker, it's fine. I'm assuming Aaron's doing it and Lisa?
Okay, any discussion? So we have a motion to approve the, amended motion to approve the public participation plan with 2 information open houses between the 3rd meeting and when the, before it gets presented to the village board. Okay. Should we take a vote?
Could I ask you a question just about the timeline? And maybe that doesn't need to be in the plan, but at what point do these happen? Like, when would the survey happen? When would those information sessions happen? Like, it's at, you know, the timeline that you had up earlier was August was the next meeting, and then October, fall-ish. So just looking for a little more detail on like when in that meeting cadence these public sessions might happen, and the survey particularly.
The survey is going to go out once you approve it, probably within a week. It needs to be translated into Spanish, and it'll be open for a month. But I think the idea with the open houses, at least what I'm hearing from JP and Paula, is that it would be best to have it between the 3rd meeting and when before it gets approved, before it goes to the village board, right?
And the survey data will inform what we do in August? Is that why it's so, okay,
We'll come back and present the results.
okay.
I have another process question. Once we're done with our stuff, is it going to plan commission first and then the village board?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, should we take a vote as amended with the 2 open public meeting?
Are you concerned that this is too compact of a timeline, that we should spread it out further?
I was not really, I was hoping, well, I don't know, I think maybe information sessions can be helpful before a survey, because a lot of times people will open a survey and not know what it's about or what it's for or how their information will be used. So I guess it depends on the robust communication that goes with the survey. I was mostly thinking about how the school district could help get the survey released in newsletter, but we're out of school next week, so I'm not sure that that would actually be helpful. But we could try, certainly, to get it to families even after school is out. But that was what I was thinking, is like, how could we get it into our families' inboxes or help promote it?
So we're going to go over the survey outreach plan in just a minute.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And I would think too that if we target for our meeting in August and we have survey data, then certainly we can have messaging out in September, and then try to have those public sessions in September.
For sure.
Yeah. There's no messaging that goes out to families, like a wrap up of the school year or something like that?
No, not really. The June newsletters are already out, and then nothing goes out. I mean, it's not like it can't go out, but there's no regular cadence of messaging, again, really until August.
What about summer school messaging?
Yeah, it's just a much
select-
reduced, very smaller group of students that attend, less than half.
Since we're not going to do the open session or the public information session between this and next meeting, maybe we should just revisit and get your guidance on like a date that you'd like to see those, after this at the next meeting.
Okay.
Okay.
And you can utilize the school district's like social media channels,
We
right?
could,
And
yep,
different
absolutely,
things.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to cut you guys out of this.
No, and I mean, it's not like a survey that would go later would be more helpful, and I think there's we can still send it. The question is whether people, I mean, a lot of times people literally like turn their school brains off when school is out, right? So whether they open it and look at it and participate in it is just a different question when it comes from us, but it doesn't necessarily mean that we shouldn't follow up and do it again or just promote it again.
Okay. I just want to make sure that you feel like you have a voice and.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, we can put it on our website. I mean, we can do all of those things, which are all value adds, I'm sure, to the strategy that you were already thinking of. So it's just it's not like it would be the only way of getting it out. It's just the value add.
Would it be helpful for maybe somebody from this committee to report at a school board meeting about the survey and about kind of what we're doing? I mean, I'd be willing to go and just kind of talk about this is what we're doing in the survey, and just, when we talk about collaboration with the school district, I think that would be a good idea too.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I volunteer to do that, so you just tell me when.
Great.
Just as another avenue too, right? Because then people watch school board meetings and. Okay.
That's a
sorry.
great idea. Okay. Shall we vote on the amended with one or two public information sessions to be decided on at the next meeting before it goes to Plan Commission or the Village Board? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
JP.
Was that an aye?
All right, yeah, that was a yes.
Okay.
My computer was not unmuted.
Any opposed? Okay. So the public participation plan has been approved
Great. Thank you, everyone.
as amended.
You can go ahead and flip to the community housing survey. The survey will help us understand the most current pressing housing needs, concerns, and priorities of residents, workers, and employers in Cottage Grove. It'll ask things like what types of housing are needed, what are the specific issues that need to be addressed, things of that nature.
How many people have actually seen the survey? We can just go through it real quick if you want to. Have you read
It
it?
was in our packet.
Yeah.
It was in the.
Have you, everyone seen it or had time to look it over?
Is it gonna be a physical survey sent out in the mail or?
Yeah, so I'll review that. We will be doing both electronic and hard copies. So the outreach plan lists some locations that we'll be dropping off some hard copies. And if you have additional ideas, we'd love to hear those and add to that. But we also have a link that we'll be sharing with you for electronic distribution. Just a quick overview. It's got 35 questions. We mentioned it's going to be translated into Spanish as well. It'll take about 10 to 15 minutes to take. We hope you all take a few moments to take it yourselves. And we're attempting, we're going to be doing comprehensive outreach to ensure the results are as representative as possible of all community members. And yes, we will be sending you the link through email. And it will also be on the HCU webpage, which I'll show you in our last slide.
Aaron, can the village do like a sponsored Facebook post or something to try to increase the reach? I don't know how they're doing, like preventing people from putting out more than one service.
I'm sure we can
It's,
do something like that.
okay.
We also have the village newsletter now that we just started. We can put it in.
I guess I have a concern. There are some families that may not want to answer these questions, especially of, personal questions about where they live and about them. I think,
None of the questions are mandatory.
Right. They can
Yeah.
skip them if they want.
I'm just saying that's going to be a segment of the population that won't be included in this because.
Because they're either immigrants or new community, right. I think that it is going to be translated into Spanish, and I think we've identified a number of areas and ways to reach out to that population, but because it is anonymous, they don't have to, I mean, where they live and who they are doesn't have to be identified. It's specifically made anonymous for everybody because some people don't some people want to put information about their income or their housing costs and other people don't. But it's that's a really important thing that we include in all of our surveys, anonymous, so people feel comfortable. And some people just don't like filling out surveys, and then some people like to fill them out. And someone just said something about how do we make sure that other people don't fill it out twice. So we have. We can analyze the URL data and the IP addresses. We're working on another very large survey that came out of the regional housing strategy with over 6,000 respondents, and we're been cleaning up that data for the last few months. And there are ways you can identify if someone's answered the survey more than once. So.
I would just add that we're trying to reach out to existing organizations with relationships with people to try to bridge some of those gaps and reach that community. But if you have additional ideas for how we might be able to do that, we would love to hear them.
I think that's a great idea, even maybe utilizing our social workers. I don't know, Katie, in our schools maybe that work with families.
They're on contract.
That's right, they're gone.
Yeah.
Yep, you're right.
Do you want to go through this so we can?
Yeah, so I guess I have to brainstorm and that.
So we'll just quickly go over the target populations and maybe list some of the organizations we've already identified, and then if you have other suggestions, we'd be happy to take those. So you want to go ahead?
Yeah, so we're looking to reach homeowners, renters, seniors, young adults, veterans, business owners, employees, a variety of household types, including families, singles, roommates, doubled up households, etc. Long-term residents, new residents, people of color, and Spanish speakers. And then we have a pretty comprehensive list of organizations from our research and our discussions with Aaron. But please let us know if you could just review that list. That would be great.
So the Chamber, the Historical Society, Cottage Grove Community Foundation,
American Legion, Cottage Grove Home Talent Baseball, Cottage Grove Cares Coalition, Cottage Grove PTO, Cottage Grove Lions Club, VFW Post 7591, Abiding Shepherd Lutheran Church, Bryn Mawr Presbyterian Church, New Life Church, Colonial Club, Cottage Grove Village Hall.
These are hard copies.
Adult Basketball Open Gym, Cottage Grove Chamber of Commerce. So some of these are repeats. The Food Pantry, Abiding Shepherd Lutheran Church, Bryn Mawr again, New Life Church, Colonial Club, Glen Grove Apartments. And then on social media, we heard about In the Grove, a Facebook group, Cottage Grove Parks and Recreation, a Facebook page, Moms and Dads of Monona Grove, also on Facebook, Cottage Grove Community Network on Facebook, and the Cottage Grove Lions Club.
We have a project assistant working with us this year who actually lives in the village of Cottage Grove, and she's studying, you'll meet her at some point, she's studying housing and community development, and she said she would be more than welcome to, she's in grad school right now for urban planning, but she said she'd also be more than willing to help get out the survey to people who are younger, basically in the community. So.
There's another church, St. Patrick's.
Thank you.
On Main Street.
The school district's not on this list anywhere, except for the PTO. So in Granite Ridge School, that adult basketball open gym, that's not a place where hard copies could go, that's just a gym.
Okay.
The school offices will mainly be closed, but Granite Ridge will be open. So I don't know, maybe we can connect offline on how to
That'd be
get
great.
hard copies into the school.
Yeah.
And certainly we could take some at the district office, even though that's in Monona. We'd have families from Cottage Grove coming into the office.
Great.
And our social media, our website, maybe we can do a newsletter or email with information on it. I don't see why not. I also, we maybe the village has this too. We've had a list of these kinds of places that we've done. We've had several school referendum campaigns, and so I have a pretty full list that I'd be happy to share of other, like, all stakeholders that are at least interested in school stuff.
Absolutely.
That could,
That's great.
places where we'd go and drop off materials for stuff like that too. And then just thinking about hard copies of like at the at senior living centers and at assisted living center, right? Like those residents are less likely to get on their email or get onto the website. So I think hard copies at senior living would be welcome.
Great, thank you so much.
Maureen, do you have a sense of any other underrepresented groups? So you identified the immigrant population. Is there something we missed on here, or do you have any other ways to access the?
Is the parent equity group still active?
They're not very active right now, no.
Okay. None at this moment, but I'll reach out if I see any.
And we did identify the food pantry, so maybe there's some, I don't know if the food pantry has a board, but yeah, might be another option.
And it's just in a church basement, so I don't know that hard copies there. Do they go?
Oh.
I think they people do go there. Okay.
Yeah. I can get you the contact's name and
Thank
phone
you.
number for the food pantry.
Thank you.
But hard copies there would be good.
Go ahead.
Okay. So I would also add the Herald Independent newspaper,
Oh.
or Leader Independent now it's called, as a method. If we can turn around a QR code pretty quickly, I think that could have multiple uses. So I could see it potentially being on the water and sewer bill that gets mailed monthly, to scan the QR code, go to the survey. I also think if we could get it turned around in the next week, we have our huge summer community festival this weekend. So it's the Fireman's Festival. So that goes Thursday.
Wait, as
Friday,
in like today's Thursday, this weekend?
next weekend.
Oh, okay, great.
Next weekend. So Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we have a huge run on Saturday as well. We have a parade.
Oh.
I mean, we have a lot of potential. So I think that QR code could be usable in a lot of formats. And am I missing any spots where a QR code could go printed?
I mean, anywhere, really.
Anywhere we post our agendas? I mean,
You could post it at the,
Signs or
you could post it
something
at the
Yeah.
pig.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think that's easy to do, so. we
And then I can
absolutely
give
do
you
that.
the name and contact information for the senior facilities.
Okay.
Thank you.
I was also going to mention Fireman's Festival, but also, I don't know if we can put them out, but Flynn Hall has stuff that might be redundant with Lions Club, but I know they do like Red Cross stuff. People could
Okay.
pick up something there.
Maybe a posting in Glen Grove Apartments. Right,
Is
the
there a
property
bulletin board,
manager.
or is there a?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
The timing may
We
be
also
off.
have,
Go ahead, JP.
I'm sorry. We also have Marketplace Days coming up in July. Oh, that's after though. When the survey closes, never mind. So that's the
Oh.
17th.
It's a huge event in July that we have, but it's like 17th, it's a Saturday. So even if we extended it,
Well, we weren't feeling comfortable about putting it out until we had the translation, and that'll probably take 3 to 5 business days. We need you to approve the survey before we can actually have it translated, and then we didn't feel like it would be appropriate to have the English one out
You don't
longer than
know.
the Spanish, or maybe not. Maybe it doesn't matter. I mean, I don't know. That was just something we thought of.
I think what he's asking is we have a huge community event in July, but it's past this deadline. So even if we pushed when the return date is,
Right.
that would incorporate another large community event.
Does that community event include people that we wouldn't otherwise capture?
Potentially.
What
I
is the
mean,
event?
So the event is called Marketplace Days. It's from the Chamber of Commerce, and it different businesses and organizations have booths there. And I don't know, sometimes the village has a booth there with Parks and Rec, but that might be in a time too.
Well, it's certainly important that we get the business community to respond to the survey. Is it possible that by reaching out to the chamber that they could distribute it through their, and not postpone the, because it will take some time to actually analyze the results, clean the data, and analyze the results, so I don't think we can push it out that far.
Yeah.
It's July 19th, if that makes any difference to when we could push it to.
What's the date today, the 5th?
For meeting in August, we could do end of August.
Well, we're also trying to get in those information sessions, and Erin, are you trying to make the fall date for the WIDA loans by any chance? Ideally? What? Right. But is there a project that you might be thinking that would be, that you could use for the WIDA loans?
Nothing specific that we know of yet.
Okay, okay. Well, if you're comfortable pushing it out, I guess we can. It would just be pushing the next meeting out further. If you think it's important to capture that group, if you don't think we can capture it effectively enough through the chamber, the Lions Club, getting the business community involved otherwise.
Well, the attendees that come to Marketplace Days are mostly families with young children. And so if we're missing that demographic from the school district, so the chamber, the businesses have booths, but it's really the attendees are residents.
Okay.
So
And the question I have is, would we be handing out paper copies for people to fill out? These are, it's a fairly lengthy survey, so I don't think people are gonna, they would take
QR
them.
codes,
QR codes, yeah.
little slips of paper with QR codes. So
Right.
yeah, I guess we'd need a little bit of turnaround time because they're probably not going to fill the whole thing out.
Well, they're not
standing
gonna fill it
there
out
with
that
their kid.
day, and, right.
Yeah.
So maybe we could have just a little further discussion. We don't have to have it now. We're late. It's the time, and we could, yeah. But I think that's a good idea. But let's give it some more consideration.
Yeah, I don't want to push us along. We did say Graham could leave at 8:30.
Yeah, I know. So, but in terms of the survey, do you see any changes that you would like to make on the survey, or it is anonymous? None of the questions are required. And one thing I would like to ask is if you would be willing to share this survey with your networks, either in paper copy, and we're happy to supply paper copies to you, but in general, the link, and there'll be a, introductory email as well. Yes, okay, great.
The only survey question that I thought was just odd, and it didn't flow with the rest, was number 20. Do you think all residents should have access to housing, yes or no? Like, that one just kind of threw me off. It didn't seem to fit with the flow, and I didn't know if there was a purpose behind that one.
Well, I think if people feel that, if residents feel that people should have access to housing, and that's a majority opinion, that certainly signifies that that should be a priority, and providing a diverse housing types. So it's just a way to gauge the overall sense of whether or not you believe that, all Cottage Grove residents should have access to housing.
Paula,
Does that make sense?
I also see it as a question that can allow us to do a deeper dive into the interrelationship with some of the other ones, like 21, etc. So it'll be interesting to see how do those line up in their responses, especially if we can use the electronic data. We could do some cross tabs on that pretty easily.
I can't hear him. Can you hear him?
He was talking about the interrelationship between that question and the other questions.
Okay.
I guess my what if a lot of people say no, and no becomes the majority thing? That's what I'm is that going to tank this whole process? I guess is the danger of that question in my mind.
I think it's important to, we can take the question out. We use the same question in the regional housing strategy, where we got over 6,000, and 95.7 people said yes, and
Okay.
4.3% said no. I'm not sure that that's going to be the case in Cottage Grove, but it's really important to understand, the community. But again, happy to take it out, whatever you feel is appropriate.
If you don't think it's going to tank the survey, it's fine.
I don't think it's going to tank the survey, but I think having information is better than not having information, and then trying to understand what that means or where that's coming from, because if people shouldn't have access to housing, then what do we, what's the alternative? And I think having a community discussion around what the alternative is wouldn't be harmful. But like we said, we're totally happy to take it out. Yeah.
Then does it make sense to add, if the answer is no, say why? Or do you know what I mean?
Sure.
Rather than just leaving it yes or no, if somebody
Yeah.
does answer no, then to articulate that rather than us guessing.
Great. Excellent. Thank you,
We
Paula.
can do
That's
that, thank
great.
you.
Yeah. Did you make a note of that? Okay.
Yes. Any other comments, concerns?
Just going back to the list, moving out should be on that list because they have resources to support Glen Grove. So
Okay, thank you.
Great, that's excellent.
We are over time.
Is there anything else on the agenda?
Just the last slide, but we have to take the vote for the survey.
I'll make a motion to approve this survey as presented,
Okay.
with the addition of the open-ended
not,
question
why?
on number 20.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? As amended with, if not, if no, why?
Aye.
Opposed? Great.
Okay. So at the next meeting, we'll provide an overview of the survey results, assuming we keep the schedule. Overview of key challenges and priorities that we discussed today. We'll give information on recognized solutions, best practices, as well as existing programs and resources and tools. We'll discuss and refine mainly strategies and action items. And then all of these details are going to be available on the HCU webpage, which I'm just going to quickly pull up here. We do need to schedule our next meeting. I was going to try to get to that tonight, but we have run out of time. So
Email.
we will do that over email. Look for an email from us, but then that information will be posted here once we nail that down.
Can I just say one thing,
Yes.
quick thing about email? And this was, I'm basing this on my mistake. If we're going to email the group, let's remember to do it BCC. I didn't do that. No, it was we're lucky we didn't have anybody else say anything, but just learn from my mistakes and BCC everybody. Thanks.
Thank you.
Do we need to have a motion to adjourn, or do we just, yeah, can we have a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Second? Anyone a second? Oh, don't you have to have a
Second.
Okay.
You said second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, all opposed. Thank you. Well, thank you so much for the invitation to be here. We really enjoyed ourselves tonight. You guys did great. You got through a lot of material, and we are looking forward to, moving forward with the survey and our other work. Alex, you have anything else you want to share?
Yeah, thank you, JP, for your virtual participation. I look forward to meeting you in person. And thank you, everyone. It's been great working with you. I look forward to working with you further.
Thanks for staying late, Graham. We really appreciate it. And thanks, Aaron, for all the prep work and the communication leading up to this. Really appreciate it.